The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show.
Welcome into the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. The show for college football fans that understand no matter how this slate looks, no matter the logos you see or maybe you don't see, or no matter who your team is playing and maybe they're an FCS team, it doesn't matter. You understand every week in the world of college football is special, it's sacred, and worth celebrating. Look at this slate in the month of March and tell me that you're going to turn your nose up at it. All right, welcome in. Glad to have you all part of this. Make sure you are subscribed. Contrary to what the ops are saying, we are predicting some games. All right. It is November 18th, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, last one on the face of the planet. Some new rankings tonight from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Late one for the boys. Going to be a lot of fun. Again, we will have a reaction to those rankings as soon as they go live. Another reason to be subscribed. But with that being said, a couple of teams that I think you can pencil in already. Not in Sharpie. A couple of teams in Sharpie, but a couple of teams I think you can pencil in semi-safe to say they'll be playoff teams. We'll unpack those teams a little bit later in the show. But it's a prediction Tuesday. We're starting out picking games and starting with the BetMGM game of the week, baby. It's USC going to Oregon, 3:30 Eastern, CBS. That sweet jingle that used to hit your ear specifically for SEC games. Now it's going to be for this game in the Big Ten game of the week. I'm assuming it's the Big Ten game of the week. It is the game of the week for us here on this show with the BetMGM game of the week. Oregon favored by 9.5 at the crib. Now, truth be told, on Sunday, I was checking this line, and it was originally saying Oregon 7.5. So the folks saw that number and said, no, that's far too low. That's far too low. Go ahead and bet that thing up to 9.5. Interesting. Does that end up being the case? We will unpack that because I'll go back really quickly in time. Oregon hosted Indiana last time College Game Day was in town. They'll be in town for this one, and that line was right around Oregon minus 8.5, I want to say. Clearly, that line was too generous. Is that the same case in this spot for the Ducks and the Trojans? Let's start with the Trojans, man. This is kind of the lose-yourself game, all right? Everyone knows that hit by Eminem. If you haven't listened to it, I would recommend the clean version, all right, just so we're all on the same page there. But this is your moment, man. This is it. USC, you beat Iowa. You earned the right to have game day in town in Austin with you going to their place. You earned the right to have the national attention. Everyone talking about Lincoln Riley and saying, wait a second, were we a bit premature on how we were assessing a one Lincoln Riley as a head coach? Maybe he's not just a coordinator. Maybe he's not just a quarterback guy. Because USC, if you win this game, you play UCLA, a UCLA that, quite frankly, I think you should beat, with a chance to punch your ticket to the college football freaking playoff. Who had that on their bingo card in the preseason? Preseason, I had USC at 9 wins. I thought I was higher on USC the most. But if USC makes the playoff, it happens if you win this game against Oregon. This is your moment. Lose yourself, USC. Cannot wait to watch what they look like coming out of the chute here. Now for Oregon, it feels like kind of a reminder opportunity for them relative to the rest of what the country is saying about them. And we'll talk about this later in the show. But I feel like Oregon's almost like the forgotten team in college football right now. Everyone's talking about Georgia and Bama losing and Ohio State and Indiana. And I'm like, did Oregon not go do what they did to Penn State at their place? And people say, well, yeah, but JD, Penn State's not any good, remember? Yeah, okay, I don't know. It felt like a big game to me. Felt like a pretty intense environment to walk into with a true first-year starting quarterback in Dante Moore, at least within your system. Like, I think for Oregon, you have a chance to reassert yourself and make sure everybody knows, with this being College Game Day, with it being 3:30 Eastern CBS, and make sure everybody gets reminded, no, okay, Oregon, yeah, they are still one of the top dogs in college football. It's funny to say that with Oregon currently being a top 10 team in the committee's rankings, but I still think the optics around Oregon, the conversation around Oregon, a little bit skewed as to what I think Oregon believes of themselves. So, Oregon early on in this game, USC, you've been a better outfit up front in that front seven. 100% true. However, I'd be wildly surprised if, knowing how Dan Lanning operates and knowing who Oregon has been offensively this year, they don't look Lincoln Riley and Dan Lynn into the windows of their soul and say, how bad do you really want this, though? Like, are you really about that life? Because I know USC, you're not the soft West Coast team that you were maybe marketed as in the preseason or talked about 2 years ago being before Dan Lynn got there. But, like, we're a 55% run the football team. We take people's souls, and we're going to make sure that you actually want to do this. Because we went to Iowa, if we're Oregon, in the rain. I don't know if there's monsoons in Iowa City, but it looked pretty close to a monsoon. 261 on the ground for the Ducks, man. You do that against Iowa, what are you doing against USC is my question in this spot relative to how USC gets up for this one. Because for USC now, as good as you've been defensively, and I love what you've done on that side of the football, Jakeem Stewart, Big Thanos out there making plays in that front seven. You've been great taking the football away. You've been great rushing the passer. However, Iowa, in similar monsoon conditions in Los Angeles, walked in and ran the ball for $183. Now, you won the game because you took the football away, and Jaden Mayava and Mekhi Lemon exist. But I think Oregon's going to score in this game and force Jaden Mayava to answer scores. And potentially now, with the way that they're going to score the football on the ground, I think they'll also create some matchups on the perimeter. Really curious to see what the intel is around the health of the Oregon playmakers going into this game, because DeCorian Moore, I know he's a true freshman. That dude's special. Like, real deal special. If he's not able to go in this game, that plot gets a little bit more thick. But if Oregon's able to run the football like I think they're going to run the football, guess what becomes available to you? More matchups downfield, a little bit less attention on the back end, Kenyon Sadiq, Malik Benson, like, more people get open. So just keep a pulse on that and how Oregon runs the football early, because I also think this is something to just monitor a little bit. Is there a world where Oregon downshifts here? By that I mean, hey, Jaden Mayava, you're really good. Mekhi Lemon, you're really good. Blitnikoff Award semifinalist. Maybe, just maybe, we want y'all to be on the field for a shorter period of time. So Oregon, they're not really like a time of possession team. They're like 55th in America when it comes to how they control the clock. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw them say, we'll take a little bit longer getting the line of scrimmage here. We'll be a little bit more leisurely with how we approach this thing offensively. It'd be a change of pace, but it would be something that I think we could see from them in wrinkle season of the college football world. That's right. It's the time of year where maybe you don't go to the basics of what you've had this year. You have a couple of things up your sleeve, and maybe slowing the game down is something we see from Oregon in this game. Now, I say all that to get to USC. I think they're going to swing their sword here, man. I think they're going to be aggressive. I think they'll take shots. I think that they watched the Indiana game, did USC. I have to believe that's the case with how they approached this whole game against Oregon. And Indiana did a phenomenal job of, yes, running the football, which I think USC will do and try to establish. But Indiana had those drive the dagger through your chest kind of plays when Elijah Surratt goes up and gets it on the outside. Now, Elijah Surratt, also a Blitnikoff Award semifinalist, given to one of the best receivers in college football. But Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, you still got to see them now. You still got to see them. And I'll say this, I think Oregon is the more talented football team. I don't think that's breaking news. However, the more talented football team doesn't always win. Sometimes it comes down to, okay, who has the matchups that they like and who can exploit those matchups consistently enough to win the football game. Those matchups might be for USC, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. We'll take you vertical and see how we live. Because Jaden Mayava, I love the way that he plays the position, man, quarterback for USC. He just plays with zero fear. And I knew this guy was different a year ago in a loss, funny enough. One of his first starts at USC, it's against Notre Dame, and Jaden Mayava throws a tough pick to that Notre Dame secondary. Tough pick. Bad look. They might have run it back for 6. I don't know, but it's a bad look. Huge swing of momentum in the game. And so you're seeing that happen. You watch Jaden Mayava and you say, okay, how is this guy going to respond? Because listen, UNLV, we love you. It's not the same as walking out there at the Coliseum, being the quarterback for the Cardinal and goal. There's a different level of pressure for you. Does he come out a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more anxious? He went right back and started slinging that thing, dude. Like, he plays with zero fear and the right amount of reckless abandon, and he's done a phenomenal job under Lincoln Riley's tutelage now, his first year as a starter, dialing back some of those mistakes. So I think you'll see him play with, again, that reckless abandon that you have signed up for if you're a USC fan. I also think that as much as you'll push the football downfield, I think we'll see a healthy dose of the screen game here from USC. I have to believe with the way that Lincoln Riley is going to call it, they will do a phenomenal job taking advantage of the aggression that Oregon plays with on the defensive side. One of the staples of Lincoln Riley's offense, a lot of counter run scheme, that screen game. Two plays in their own right, and the family of plays to where if you overcommit if you're Oregon and you're not solid on the backside of that pressure, or you're not keeping the back door locked when it comes to how you pursue, if you don't have good lane integrity, there's a chance now for that to gash. And if that gashes, USC gets momentum, gets some juice offensively, and maybe they're playing with some confidence in Autzen, and we're like, okay, hang on, here we go now, USC. 9.5, go ahead and keep that. Maybe USC outright wins the game. I think that's going to have to be there for USC in the sense where it's going to be a very tall task for Danton Lynn in this spot against this Oregon offense, and that's kind of the next thing I want to unpack together. What does Danton Lynn have cooked up for Dante Moore? Because I keep going back to this idea of the blueprint set by Indiana. Yes, you had some plays on the perimeter you won offensively, but defensively, Indiana heated Dante Moore up consistently. And USC, over the course of this season, has a top 15 sack rate in college football. Translation, I think they have the ingredients to do what Indiana did to Dante Moore. Get him off his spot, get him a little bit uncomfortable. However, you only get to do that if you're able to get to 3rd and 7. So I just told you, I think Oregon's going to run the football well, but like how timely can USC be with those big boy stops, if you will? And when I say stops, I don't mean on 3rd down. We'll take 3rd down stops all day long. Don't get it twisted. But if we can just hold them to, call it 2nd and 8, 2nd and 8, and then you get a stop on 2nd and 8 to where you make it 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, obvious passing downs to where you get to go hunt the quarterback, and then you give yourself a chance to maybe go get a tip pass, get a turnover, whatever it looks like. Good things happen. You live in the world you want to live in if you're USC, getting Oregon to 3rd and 7. That's not breaking news. That's how college football works. That's how football works, period. But that's extremely important here for USC, because if you're not able to have them in a passing situation on 3rd down and Oregon just gets to live in, call it 3rd and whatever we want to call, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, at that point, play actions on the table, deep shots are on the table, run games on the table. I don't like everything on the table for Will Stein, the OC for Oregon. That's a bad way to live if you're USC on the defensive side. So one other thing to track here in regards to the flow of this game, I mentioned the firepower of USC and the aggression of USC and the desire to get Dante Moore a little bit sped up and pressing and trying to create some extra possessions for the Trojans and all those things. There is a world now where Lincoln Riley pulls out that golden game plan, throws it on the desk, and USC is up in the first quarter by a margin that's maybe not insurmountable, but enough to where it creates a little bit of fire under Oregon's tail. All right, maybe that's a world that favors USC on the defensive side. Okay, because I keep going back to this. Danton Lynn got to find a way to apply pressure to Dante Moore, got to get him throwing the football. Well, if you're chasing points early and you got to not abandon the run full sail, but maybe you just take a break with the run game a little bit, that could be a world also where USC gets to be a little bit aggressive and find some margin in this game. So here's where I fall on this game. I'll say this again. I think there is a formula in place for USC to get it done. I really do. It would be Makai Lemon big day, Jaden Maiava no fear game, Jaden Maiava limited turnovers, USC good enough on the ground, and then USC on the defensive side, as we've said now multiple times, applying pressure, rattle Dante Moore, Indiana game round 2, what's on and popping, USC leaves Autzen with a dub. That world exists, so hear me clearly. I think that spread is way too big when it comes to this game. At the exact same time, I worry about all the matchups that I think Oregon can have in this spot. If they have DeCorian Moore, more power to them. But I'm watching Big Kenyon Sadiq out there, man. Called him this for a while. He's the Big Ten's version of Brock Bowers, which is a lofty comp, but you watch the way they use him. I mean, they'll hand him the football if they want to. Line him up at Wildcat quarterback. They'll get him the ball out in space in the screen game. Like, I think that matchup and the Swiss Army knife that it can be, and then all the perimeter weapons for Oregon. In addition, I think there's too many ways right now for me to feel about Oregon's offense to where I think they're able to get enough offensively to force USC into a tricky spot, and I think that kind of ends up being a massive part of the difference. The other part of the difference for me is like it's Dan Lanning at home back against the wall. If they lose these next 2 games, they will not be in the college football playoff. I think Dan Lanning's like, nah, we'll just handle it right now. We'll win this game. We'll get to our threshold of wins we need to be at here. We'll get to the 10-win mark, and I think ultimately Oregon just traits their way through, and they don't allow themselves to lose the second time with College game day in town in the same season. I'd be shocked if that happens. I don't think it happens. I'll take Oregon to win. I'll take USC to cover now. Okay, final score in Eugene. Ducks 34, Trojans 27. Oregon punches their ticket more or less to the college football playoff with a win at the Crib. Now, I'll say this too, Cato. If that's the clip that the On3 social team decides to tweet out for BetMGM, take whatever to take USC to win is what I'll say. Because every single time the On3 has tweeted out one of my game picks, I don't think we've had a winner just yet. And it's So if you see the On3 social account later in the week tweet that out, take USC, put the house on USC, all that. All right. Next game up, Missouri at Oklahoma. This game all of a sudden got a little bit extra juice to it now because Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa, went into your trap, took over your trap, and Oklahoma looking down the barrel of a potential college football playoff berth should they be able to get through Missouri and LSU. Noon Eastern, ABC, a little caffeine and football for you. Chick-fil-A breakfast and football for you. Absolutely sensational. Oklahoma favored by 9.5. It's a big number. It's a big number. Does it hold? We'll give you our thoughts here. If you're a college football sicko, also just quick note, make sure you're subscribed. Game breakdowns, portal talk, recruiting talk, carousel talk. Everything that you know and love about this awesome, wonderful sport happens here on this show, so make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate you in advance for that. Now, this is kind of the cliche spot for Oklahoma. What I mean by that is every cliche you can think of, blood in the water, shark's frenzy, crunch time, run to daylight, money on the table, chips are stacked, whatever, however you want to say it, whatever cliche you want to use here, it's that time for Oklahoma. Because of what I just said, if you beat Missouri and LSU, you're in the college football playoff, man. Think about what a tough day that would be for the Brent Venables ops. After he went 6-7 his first year there, and then he went 6-7 2 years after that with their first year in the SEC, and everyone's saying he's just a coordinator, he's not a head coach. They're 2 games away from punching their ticket to the college football playoff, man. They are right freaking there. So whatever cliche you want to use about locking in and walking the tightrope, it's there for Oklahoma in this spot. At home, nonetheless. Does it hold? We'll see. Now for Missouri, chance to spoil the season. I think in today's age of modern college football, it's so playoff or bust. Got to make the playoff or your season's not meaningful of anything. Don't tell Eli Drinkwitz that. Don't tell Ahmad Hardy that, going for 3 bills against Mississippi State last week. I don't think that Missouri would mind spoiling Oklahoma's college football playoff chances. That feels right in line with their personality and what they would enjoy in this Week 13 of the wonderful world that is college football. So, Missouri, if you think they're going to just roll over and be done, think again, all right? For Oklahoma in this spot, it's going to take more from your offense than what you got last week. Now, I loved the offensive output, the gritty showing and all that, but it's going to take more than right around 200 total yards to beat this Missouri team. I think the blueprint laid out by Texas A&M is an intriguing one if Ben Arbuckle and co. calling the shots there for the Sooner offense. A&M did 2 things really effectively against Missouri. One, they ran the football downhill. They said, we're not going to do this whole cute north and south perimeter run game. We're going to go right at you, set ourselves up for ideal second down and third down distance, and we'll live that way. And eventually, that dam burst for Texas A&M in the run game. Now, I understand A&M's personnel is different than what Oklahoma has personnel-wise, but Oklahoma, man, they also got the quarterback run game dialed in. Maybe you're saying, JD, we don't want to run John Mateer. We got the playoff to think about. You only have the playoff to think about if you win this game. All of them are must-wins from here on out. This is the grit-your-teeth game, again, for Oklahoma. They're all grit-your-teeth games here when it comes to John Mateer running the football. So you don't do anything stupid, but I loved the way that A&M did a great job kind of getting Missouri rocking and rolling, a lot of pre-snap movement, a lot of eye candy, and then boom, right at you downhill. I think that's something I would try to replicate if I was Ben Arbuckle with the way these backs have run over the course of this last month or so. Keep an eye on that. Second thing A&M did really effectively against Missouri, they were super efficient in the quick game. Okay, it's a big thing to watch in this game when Oklahoma's attacking Missouri. Missouri plays a lot of zone defense, and so when that happens, there's going to be windows to throw to. Even more so if you get the run game going. Then those windows get a little bit more sizable, get a little more real estate downfield. Those chunk plays turn into explosive plays. All that's on the table here. This is another big yak game for Oklahoma in the skill player category. Like Deion Burks, Jaron Canick, Satania. You got to catch and get north and south, baby, because there will be a lot of situations where you catch the ball at right around 5-6 yards and have a chance to puncture the defense and get to a first down and then some. Got to be a big day for the Oklahoma skill players with the ball in their hands when they catch it in the soft spot of the Missouri zone defense. Because I think John Mateer, the way that he has operated the last couple of weeks, that thumb you're still kind of side-eyeing a little bit and making sure he's healthy enough, but the velocity seems back, the spiral seems good, the ball placement seems much improved from what it was against Ole Miss. I think you're going to have a chance to attack this Missouri secondary, who's been great by the numbers, but just the matchups of how Ben Arbuckle will use things pre-snap to get Missouri a little bit out of whack, how they're going to try to run the football downhill. I think there's a chance to get after this Missouri secondary just a little bit here, which would be huge for Oklahoma, assuming they find a way to get past Mizzou to kind of have that ramped up for the LSU game and then the college football playoff. That would be huge. But again, you only get to do that if you establish something on the ground, and I think John Mateer might need to be a part of that. Now, the battle for flow is something I'm watching when Missouri has the football. If you've watched Missouri, you know they love to do what's called the wide zone run scheme. All that means is Ahmad Hardy is getting the football and running to either the tackle or the tight end of that formation. Okay, he's trying to make that edge player declare if they want to go upfield and contain him, or if they want to try and seal underneath and or try to take away the upfield cut. Then he'll get around that and go north and south in that sense. Whenever you do that, you're trying to read the flow of a defense. Now, Oklahoma, going in line with this conversation, they are extremely aggressive with how they attack in the run game, how they attack in the pass game. They are exactly what you would expect when you see Brent Venables on the sideline, even if you knew nothing about college football, and you just had an ISO cam of Brent Venables during a college football game. You didn't even watch the game itself. And then I asked you after the game, what do you think his defense plays like? It would be exactly what Oklahoma does defensively. Downhill, bad intentions, hair on fire, a little bit psychotic, here for all of it. But when you play with that level of aggression, if you overflow against Ahmad Hardy, you get got. And Oklahoma's been awesome against the run this year, but Ahmad Hardy's also been awesome running the football this year, as has Roberts over the course of this season for that two-headed monster Missouri has in the backfield. So I just want to plant this seed. If Oklahoma doesn't do a good job being gap sound with how they attack that wide zone offense, Ahmad Hardy will take you yard. And it will not be a good time for Oklahoma. We're talking about, man, they were so close. They controlled their own destiny. And then Ahmad Hardy happened. So the integrity for Oklahoma against that run game is going to be huge here, especially with the explosive nature of what Missouri can do in the run game. The ripple effect, though, of Missouri getting going in the run game, I think is interesting. One, just as a running back, having played the position, once you get in rhythm and get 5 yards, you get 6 yards, those landmarks start to be a little bit more navigable. Those holes look a little bit wider. The game slows down for you. If Ahmad Hardy has the game slowed down for him, look out. So that's one part of this. The other part of this is you help your quarterback out. I'm assuming it's going to be Matt Zollers here. I say assuming because it's early in the week, and then when Bo Pabula got hurt, there was this thought of, well, it might not be season ending. We'll see. I'm assuming it's Matt Zollers here. If you can run the football and set him up with some better passing situations, hey, Olubade has been awesome for them. True freshman receiver, going back to like exploiting matchups that we talked about in the USC-Oregon preview. If this is the matchup for Missouri to exploit, and they can just go at him all day long, which would be a tall task, but if they can just have him take over the game with his ability to catch the football in contested situations and they get less attention on him, like there is a world now where they just match up their way with Olubade and get a little bit of juice on the ground with Ahmad Hardy all the way to a victory. It could happen. Now, a big part of why that would happen with it being a 9.5-point spread, what if Missouri just doesn't turn it over? That is a non-negotiable for me if you're telling me Missouri is going to win the football game. If you lose the turnover margin, you are losing the game. But what if Missouri doesn't turn it over? Well, then you get to, again, feed Hardy. You get to take some pressure off of ideally your quarterback, because that means you're not living in a lot of like third and passing situations. Just something to keep an eye on there. Now, if Missouri doesn't turn it over, you're assuming that you make the Oklahoma offense work for a little bit more. I should have said this at the front, man. Missouri's got an awesome front seven. Oklahoma running the football against Missouri, I think, is a taller task than running the football against Alabama. and Oklahoma wasn't really all that great on the ground against Alabama, beside the point. I think kicker Tate Sandell, that Tate Sandell with those small, tight shorts and that Legatron-ish right leg is going to have to play a factor here. Because I don't know if it'll be a whole lot of like Oklahoma just opens up the bag of tricks and they get a bunch of like explosive plays against Missouri. If it happens, it happens. But I think this will be a little bit more grudge matchy, a little bit more November football-ish. I think it'll feel game flow-wise a lot like the weather will be outside, I have to believe, in Norman, Oklahoma. It could be a little bit ugly, a little bit gross. And when that happens, you might need a 50-yarder or two from Tate Sandell, which is what you got against Tennessee. So at the end of the day, man, as good as I think Missouri is in the front seven, as much as I think of Ahmad Hardy, I have a really hard time believing that Oklahoma takes their eye off the ball after beating Tennessee and after beating Alabama. They've done all the hard part of their equation to get to the college football playoff. They've put in the grunt work. They have done the hardest part of this entire process of getting to the college football playoff. I don't believe that John Mateer and Brent Venables and Kevin Wilson, who John Mateer mentioned in his interview, lets Oklahoma drop the rope at this point in time, especially not at home. So I'll take Oklahoma to win. I will take Missouri to cover now. All right, Oklahoma wins 24-16. Again, Missouri covers that 9.5. I think it's far too generous with how Oklahoma's played offensively and with it being November football. But I still believe Oklahoma wins and sets themselves up for a spot now where if they beat LSU, Oklahoma is a college football playoff team their second year in the SEC. But Oklahoma gets it done at the crib. Now, I'm glad we're breaking this game down. Tennessee going to the Swamp. 7:30 Eastern, ABC. Herbie and Fowler on the call. So Kirk Herbstreit's going from Eugene, Oregon in the morning all the way to the game that he's calling that night in Gainesville, Florida. I don't know if there's a tougher like coast-to-coast trip throughout the course of a day. I digress. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorite at the Swamp. This was a game, probably even going back to the offseason, that Tennessee folks were saying, man, Swamp's a tough place to win. I don't know if I like our odds of going to the Swamp and getting it done, Jay. It's a tough place to play. The reason why they say that, Tennessee has not won in the Swamp since 2003. George Bush was president in 2003 of September when they won that game. This is a spot now where you can break the curse. And I know this year's been a weird year if you're a Tennessee fan. Going back to what happened in the spring with Nico leaving, and then you find out, actually, Joey Aguilar's awesome. Oh, yeah, we do have a top 10 coach in the sport in Josh Heupel. And so everyone's like, forget 8 wins. We want to get to the college football playoff. Then you lose to Oklahoma, and you're like, well, dang, this is a disappointment of a season. I think there's a chance to recalibrate and salvage some vibes by beating Florida and ending that streak of 20-plus years in the Swamp. So people say playoff football is the only thing that matters in college football. Don't tell Tennessee that, because I promise you, if they can beat Florida in the Swamp, I think there would be parades in Knoxville for the better part of the next 24 hours. Now, here's the great thing with Florida. Florida's going to, I think, come out swinging in this game because they hate Tennessee. Mic drop, period. This is a throwback college football game where it doesn't matter if you're playing for the playoff or if you're playing for the BC. You are playing Tennessee and going to bring the juice against Tennessee because you hate that block T, power T, for the good folks in Knoxville. You hate them. You can't stand them. Doesn't matter how the season's gone. Doesn't matter if Billy Napier's fired. This is a throwback college football game where it matters because it's Tennessee, and that's a beautiful thing when it comes to Florida. So defending home turf, pride, won't back down, playing in the fourth quarter, going to be electrifying. Cannot wait to watch it. Florida, say what you want about their record, still extremely talented. You've heard people say that now ad nauseum for the better part of the last 3 months. I know the record doesn't show it, but Florida is a talented football team. So here's my question for Florida. Can you do against Tennessee on the ground what Mississippi State did, what Georgia did? Essentially pound the rock. And Jaden Baugh is one of the best backs in the SEC, not playing on a great team in Florida, but one of the best backs in the SEC. And also, I think there's a world where DJ Lagway gets active a little bit on the ground. Like they made the coaching change around the Georgia game, and we saw DJ Lagway get busy a little bit in the quarterback design run game, quarterback draw. Sometimes it literally was going to be a quarterback draw, but Georgia lined up with just no linebackers in the middle of the field. And it was like, no, okay, direct snap to DJ Lagway. Let's get north and south, baby. That is huge because, one, it's going to get you ideal down in distance and help DJ Lagway out, which is obvious. Two, it sets up what Florida ultimately wants to do offensively, which is freaking take shots, man. They want to hit you in the play-action game. So Jaden Baugh, 4 yards to carry here. DJ Lagway, situational third down here. If they make Tennessee overcommit a little bit, that is right into what they want to do offensively. Now, the question I have offensively for Florida, in addition to that, is like, okay, great, you made Tennessee overcommit. You got yourself some play action looks. Cool. Who's catching the football? If you were dialed in during our spring intel segments on this show, where we're talking to people close to the Florida program, we're talking to the good folks over at Gators Online and just getting into the weeds of it all, and we kept hearing this one name, J. Michael Sturdivant. J. Michael gets 31 time. This transfer from UCLA, big body receiver, been pretty solid this year. Okay, had a bit of a pop against Ole Miss, by the numbers at least. He is the guy I'm circling here for Florida. If you're able to get Tennessee into play-action ideal situations, we need him to step up. Also, freshman TJ Abrams made some plays against Ole Miss, so keep an eye on him. Bottom line, there has to be a playmaker for us to go to when we get play-action situations. All right, because Tennessee defensively, not good against the pass. Decent against the run by the numbers. They've had, moments, which is why we talk about pounding the rock. But, we got to find some way to expose that secondary. Florida. All right, can we do it? If they do, it'll be, I think, in large part due to a one J. Michael Sturdivant. Now, Tennessee, defensively, I just told you all the reasons you have for concern, all the reasons why it could get a little bit weird in the swamp, as it's gotten for you over the course of the last 20 years. But I think your personality weirdly fits exactly what would make me nervous if I'm DJ Lagway. Because here's the thing. There's a song called X Gon' Give It To You. All right, or that's the chorus, rather. The same concept applies here with DJ Lagway. Lagway gonna give it to you. Lagway going to give you the football if you're playing opportunistic on that back end. Tennessee's been one of the best teams in America when it comes to taking the football away. Again, not a great defense by the numbers, but they've been phenomenal. Taking away twice a game is Tennessee. So as much as you worry about the playmakers for Florida and the running game, if you can just be right in what you've been right in all year long, which is taking the ball away, then things get a little bit intriguing. Then things start to lean more towards Tennessee, and you're looking at that streak that Tennessee's had losing in the swamp. You say, okay, this might be it right now. This might be it. So here's arguably the most important part of this whole game to me. I think Tennessee will have success enough, running the football. I like Deshaun Bishop. Florida's given up over 200 yards rushing their last 2 games. One of those being Kentucky. No knock on Kentucky, but I think Deshaun Bishop is a better back than what Kentucky has. So I say all that to say I think Joey Aguilar has got to do a phenomenal job quieting down those voices in his head saying, Joey, throw it. I tell you what, dude, that Green Goblin mask whispers to Joey Aguilar when he goes to bed at night and says, someone's down there, someone's open, throw it, Joey. Doesn't matter what the defense is doing, throw it. And sometimes that works. I think you need some of that for Tennessee to be successful offensively. But, man, that Florida defense, if you're a little bit too casual with the football, we've seen they can be opportunistic in their own right. So I say all that to get to this point. Don't give the ball away, Joey. You give the ball away, give the game away. We got to do a good job dialing back some of that Green Goblin whisper stuff and not make poor decisions with the football. Because I like your matchups with Chris Brazzell and all the weapons and all those things, but if we're not able to maximize the Josh Heupel scheme here, like you weren't able to against Oklahoma, we're going to have a rerun of the Oklahoma game. Because go back to the Oklahoma game if you're a Tennessee fan, if you can stomach it and put yourself in that mindset. It felt like to me Tennessee was about to run away with that game. However, what happened? Oklahoma started applying pressure. Joey Aguilar got a little bit casual, started to put the ball up for grabs a little bit more than probably you need to. Things got sideways pretty quickly, right? That has to be the exact same scenario you avoid in this game against Florida because I think there will be plays to be had. I really do. With how you're going to run the football, with how you align splits-wise, how you constrain Florida's alignment defensively. I think there's going to be plays to be had. However, we got to keep from, if we're Joey Aguilar, predetermining where to go with the football, and then we will have a shot. So who wins this game, JD? In 20 years is a long time. Listen, history is reliable and history is a great teacher, but correlation is not causation. Josh Heupel is one of the best coaches in college football. Florida will get up for this game. But are they up for this game in the fourth quarter when Deshaun Bishop is starting to really have some tread on the tires? Also, you just had a tough loss to Ole Miss that you wonder a little bit, was that the last song for Billy G and the boys when it comes to exerting that extra effort? Florida will be up for this because they hate Tennessee, but Tennessee will get a culture win. They will get a finish the trip kind of win. They will get a curse-breaking win in the Swamp. Tennessee, for the first time since 2003, slays the dragon, the modern dragon that is, of course, an alligator. They get it done in the Swamp. Tennessee wins the game outright. You know what? We'll take Tennessee to cover as well with that 3.5 number. Tennessee wins, Tennessee covers. The streak is over in the Swamp for the Vols. All right? And not a playoff year for Tennessee, but nonetheless a good year and a much better year now, having ended that curse. Right? Quick sip of some caffeine here before we get into the second half of the show for those listening on podcast. All right, let's get to it, man. We're going to get the was it third now, college football playoff rankings from the committee. And we will react to those in real time. So, again, make sure you're subscribed. I think there is several teams now with 2 weeks left in the season, which is dark to say. 2 weeks left in the season. There's several teams that I think you can write into the college football playoff bracket in Sharpie. I think that's Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Ole Miss. I'm going to go ahead and say Georgia, too. I don't really want to do 5 minutes on why I don't think Georgia's going to lose to Charlotte and why, even if they lose to Georgia Tech, 10-2, Georgia still gets in. Those teams are out there in Sharpie right now. But I think there's a smaller group of teams that I think you can sort of pencil into the college football playoff right now. Maybe they're not written in like ink, but there's a couple of teams that I'm like, hey, these teams I feel pretty good about saying they're going to be in the college football playoff as of today. Now, I want to start with the team that just lost last weekend. Y'all, I think you can pencil in Alabama to the college football playoff. JD, they just lost to Oklahoma. They got to win out to get in. I hear you. I understand all that. But here's my thing. I'm not worried about Alabama. I'm not. And I understand. If you're an Alabama fan, you're like, JD, the Oklahoma loss sucked. It felt very un-Saban-like. What's going on with Alabama? As bad as it feels, what are the facts today after that loss? The facts are Ty Simpson went for over 300 yards against one of the best defenses in college football. The facts are you outgained Oklahoma. You were better on third down than Oklahoma. You were less penalized than Oklahoma. You had something going in the run game. All of that is true. The reason why you lost the game is because you had 3 turnovers. Heck, you held the Oklahoma offense to 212 total yards. Everything on the box score should have equated to an Alabama win, but it didn't go that way. So you only play the game once. Doesn't matter if you played it 10 times, what would happen. That's not the conversation I want to have. The conversation I want to have is it's not like we saw Alabama just get exposed or implode or have this massive, fraudulent game by Bama. No, you lost to a good team with one of the best defenses in college football on a day where they just seem to have your number and you fumble a punt and they got pressure and forced you to fumble and Ty Simpson threw an uncharacteristic pick. Like it be like that sometimes is my point in all this. So I think when you look at what Alabama's going to be here the rest of the way, the question you ask is, well, hey, can they beat Auburn? That's what it comes down to. Can you beat Auburn? Jordan-Hare, weird place to play, rivalry, kind of throw logic out the window sort of approach. The question I think you have with can you beat Auburn, the next question, or maybe the first question you have after or before that is, how will Alabama respond to this loss? And my thing is, we've seen Bama respond. We've seen this Alabama team respond to a loss. They won 8 in a row after losing to Florida State. And weirdly enough, this loss feels different than that loss. Because that loss, we didn't know who Bama was just yet. That loss was like a fragile Bama week 1, second-year new head coach, new starting quarterback. We had very valid questions after that loss to Florida State. I don't have those same questions after the Oklahoma loss. I really don't. I think the question you would have had is, well, can they run the football? Y'all, to be real, like, your back averaged 4 yards a carry, your lead back at least, in Daniel Hill. To me, I get excited about what that means for Alabama. I get excited about being able to build upon that and have success down the way because, honestly, that was the question you had was, can we run the football? Hey, if that ends up being a win for Alabama, I think cooler heads prevail, and you look at that box score and say, wait a second, we might have found something in the run game. And if Bama can run the football and Ty Simpson keeps being Ty Simpson, terrifying for the rest of college football. Absolutely terrifying. So, Alabama, I think they're going to beat Auburn. I think they'll be in the college football playoff. And I understand the desire to be worried about the Oklahoma loss and how it looked and all that. Like, at the end of the day, it wasn't Bama's game. And that's okay. That's college football. Also, didn't we kind of see Ohio State have a similar November storyline themselves and then turn it on and go into just vengeance mode the rest of the way? If I'm Alabama, maybe this is that for you. Because we hear them keep talking about the Florida State loss, taking that personal, being better for it. Maybe this loss is the exact same for you. You just get a little extra hit of it going into the college football playoff and finishing through the month of November. So to me, I think Bama is going to beat Auburn, and Auburn with the interim head coach, and Auburn that's had questions across the board. It feels like different spots every single weekend. I think Alabama is a team you can right now, not in Sharpie, but you can pencil them into the college football playoff. I'm not worried about the Crimson Tide, y'all. I'm not. Now, in that same breath, I think you can pencil Oklahoma in. If you've watched this this full show that we're watching or doing right now, we think they're going to beat Missouri. The path for Oklahoma is to beat Missouri, like we think they will, beat LSU, and get to 10 wins and be a college football playoff team. Essentially, Oklahoma is walking the tightrope. Now, I said this on a reaction to the Bama game for Oklahoma, but I want to revisit it. People that walk tightropes talk about the most dangerous part of walking on that wire, however many 100 feet up you are, is the last couple of steps. Because you see where you're about to be, you get excited, the eyes get big, the lungs get filled with air, and you're breathing pretty quickly. Can you walk those last two steps, Oklahoma, and get to the college football playoff, beating Missouri and LSU? Honestly, I'm looking at this with Oklahoma. I'm like, they are exactly where and who I'd want to be at this point with 2 games left to play in the month of November. One, you have winnable games in front of you. Like, let's be real. Missouri, the spread being 9.5, is what it is for a reason. The LSU game with an interim head coach and playing a new quarterback, it looks like, and also you get them at home, feels pretty winnable. But there's that part of it. There's also the part of it, what I just said. They're walking with some swagger. I think Oklahoma right now, with the wins at Neyland, in Tuscaloosa, and in the college football playoff hopes for Tennessee and putting Alabama now on the ropes, they got some skins on the wall, man. Got some skins on the wall. And I think that proof of concept makes you feel a lot better walking these last couple of steps across this tightrope, finishing through and getting to the college football playoff, beating teams that, quite frankly, you feel like you're supposed to beat if you're an Oklahoma fan. And I think that's all very much so well and good because it's not confidence based in this like hypothetical nature or, man, I think we have the pieces to beat them. It's like, no, are they better than Tennessee and Alabama? No knock on Mizzou and LSU, but unfortunately, no. Okay, they're like, let's go roll. What are we half-stepping here for, boys? Like, we're ready to go get it right now. We're ready right now to quote some good folks out there in Colorado. Every part of this team is adrenaline junkie-ish, isn't it? Like there's no fear. Like you got Brent Venables, who's insane. You have a defense that plays like Brent Venables acts, insane. 6 turnovers the last 2 games, sideline to sideline, no seatbelt, filling on the run game. You got a quarterback who broke his thumb and came back 2 weeks later. Shout out Dr. Shin. You got a run game that seems to just find a way the last couple of weeks. Like there is just such an adrenaline junkie, run through a wall, jump off a bridge, go skydiving, no parachute, like whatever. Like they got kind of this Travis Pastrana energy to them right now. Does Oklahoma? And I think some people see them winning against Alabama and say, man, that's a little bit close to the edge, a little bit dangerous there for Oklahoma, isn't it? And I think they say, this is how we live. It works. You know, I think that's who Oklahoma is right now. Yes, it's unconventional. Yes, it makes you more nervous if you're watching them jump off that bridge or do that backflip or run through a wall. It makes you nervous watching it, but it's like, it works. It's them. It's how they operate. And it'd be one thing if that was how they were operating and they had lost 5 games. They're staring down the barrel again of a college football playoff berth. So going back to proof of concept, the fact they've lived this way and won this way and had success doing it gives me a lot of confidence in how they're going to finish this season. So I'll say this. If Oklahoma does do what I think they're going to do and pencil them into the college football playoff, I think they're the most dangerous personality to draw that first round. Reason being, they're not going to be scared of anybody that they draw. Doesn't matter if it's in Norman, doesn't matter if it's in South Bend, doesn't matter if it's in Eugene. Like, it does not matter where Oklahoma plays you or who they have to play. I think they're walking in chest out, eyes up, frothing at the mouth, ready to get after it. Why? Because, again, they're battle-tested. They've been through some adversity. They got back into a freaking corner post-Ole Miss and then fought their way out, have stayed true to their personality getting it done. Probably still feel like they got more meat on the bone offensively, too, quite frankly, to go get it done. That personality, seeing them in round 1, feels a lot like the personality we saw Notre Dame show up with a year ago, and they want to run to the college football playoff and make the national championship game. So I'm not calling my shot for Oklahoma to play for a national title right now, but I do think their personality Should you see them in round 1, I wouldn't want to play them. So, Oklahoma, don't use ink, but you can pencil them into the college football playoff as well. All right, 2 more teams to talk through here when it comes to penciling in some college football playoff attendees. Next up, you can pencil in Oregon. All right, now, even if you don't think they're going to beat USC, which as of right now, I think they will, you just got to split your last 2 between USC and Washington. So, for Dan Lanning, it becomes a matter of, are you going to be able to keep from losing 2 in a row? And here's my thing. Dan Lanning, as the head coach of Oregon, has never lost 2 games in a row. Go back to his first year there. They lost 2 of their last 3 his first year there. Since then, never lost 2 in a row. So what that's going to come down to and why it's happened that way for Oregon, Dan Lanning, I believe, is at the elite tier in college football in getting his team ready to meet the moment. People say, well, JD, the Rose Bowl didn't meet the moment then. Yeah, that to me feels like a bit of an anomaly. Like Ohio State was then a buzzsaw at that point. It is what it is. Outside of that, though, most of the big games Oregon plays, I feel like Dan Lanning has this team seeing it properly, thinking properly about themselves. A lot of that, too. I think he's one of the best psychologists in college football, quite frankly. When it gets to his team having a goal put in front of them and having to go achieve it, I trust Dan Lanning to get his team ready to roll. So I want to also address this. I feel like Oregon has all the ability and tools in the world to go be a college football playoff team right now. And I keep saying this. I feel like Oregon's kind of been forgotten about. And the reason why that is the Penn State win didn't age that well. You beat Penn State in a whiteout. Everyone's singing Oregon's praises. Turns out Penn State maybe had their own issues. I think Oregon kind of created some of those issues, neither here nor there. Penn State falls off the wagon, and everyone's like, oh, that win must not have been that great then, Oregon. Then you pair that with the moment people remember, I think, most clearly, which is Indiana going to Autzen with College Game Day in town and beating Oregon out their place by double digits. And so people remember that moment. I'm like, do we not remember the other moments, though, for Oregon? Like, do we not understand this team's got a head coach that's 43-7? They're averaging 37 a game, number 11 in college football. Defense is top 5 in, like, virtually every category across the board. Got a quarterback completing 73% of his throws. Want to talk about moments? How about not flinching from Dante Moore in a wideout? And say what you want about what Penn State was after that game. That game was a huge spot for that program on the other side. Again, wideout, like you don't walk into that game and not have your heart rate change at all. That's psychopath stuff. Dante Moore, certified psychopath. Season on the line. Just torrential downpours, what it looked like on the broadcast. You drop a freaking dime in a bucket to your guy down the right sideline and Malik Benson when you had to have it. Nobody remembers that moment. And so I think that ultimately, like I truly think this Oregon team, when it comes to first-round draws, I think Oklahoma is probably the most difficult personality. I think Oregon might be the toughest matchup. Like, matchup-wise, there's so many ways that Oregon can beat you. The ground game has proven it's potent. 261 against Iowa. I just told you, Dante Moore completing 70% of his throws. He's dialed in. He's not getting nearly the respect that he deserves. Also, I think the fact that Oregon, at this point now, would have a chip on the shoulder, an edge to themselves, and most importantly, staying in rhythm. That was, I think, the big question we all had at the end of last year is you win the Big Ten championship, you're undefeated, and then you got a few weeks to sit around and hear about how great you are. Oregon, top seed in the college football playoff. Dan Lanning got them rolling. Dylan Gabriel's Heisman finalist. Oregon's awesome. And that whole time, you're not getting activity. You're not staying in rhythm. You're not staying in routine. That would not be the case, I believe, for this Oregon team because I think they'll probably miss the Big Ten title game. But I think they'll be in the college football playoff. And going back to the whole psychologist angle here for Dan Lanning, I think he'll have his team ready to play. I think he will use what last year was. I can already see it in my mind's eye. The pre-game meeting peak that we get from the creative team is Dan Lanning talking about, hey, we showed up in the college football playoff a year ago and got embarrassed. I promise you, he will do everything the correct way possible to have that team in a different mindset and a different, probably physical state, too, to be ready to roll for round 1 of the college football playoff. So, Oregon, I don't see a world where they drop these last 2, man. I really don't. I think they'll be a college football playoff team. You can go ahead and pencil the Ducks in right now into your 12-team playoff bracket. Now, this is probably the least controversial team that we can pencil in right now. It's Notre Dame. Even if the committee tonight, and if you're watching this, the committee may have already had these rankings released, so just bear with me. But if you're watching this show in real time, thank you. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Even if the committee puts Notre Dame behind Oklahoma, they're not putting them out of the top 10. And so as long as Notre Dame's in the top 10, they're going to be a college football playoff team. And I think at this point now, what Notre Dame did for themselves in terms of making them a team you can pencil into the college football playoff is getting that win in a convincing fashion against Pitt means the burden of proof is now on you as the college football playoff committee to assert emphatically that Notre Dame is not a top 10 team. If they were at like 15 the week before, they're trying to climb back in, then you can say, well, we don't know if you're there yet. You put them in the top 10. You have to now have a definitive statement as to them being out of that top 10, and I don't know how you do that after you just beat a top 25 team by 22 points. So what Notre Dame has left here is Syracuse and Stanford, two teams that are respectively 3 and 7. Notre Dame is favored right now by 35.5 against Syracuse this upcoming weekend. Now, you do have to go out to Palo Alto to play that last one. I don't think that'll matter too much for Mark Schumann and the guys, but the point being, it's a very navigable path here for Notre Dame. I think the big thing with Notre Dame right now, the reason why you can pencil them in, they're hitting top speed at the right time. In addition to everything I just said about the slate and where they're at and their positioning, all that's important, but like they're hitting top speed at right time. Because you could say, okay, well, hey, do we drop a game at Stanford? Hey, do we look a little bit suspect against Syracuse, not look great? Jeremiah Love, the last 4 games, 9.5 yards a carry, 8 yards a carry, 7 yards a carry, 6.5 yards a carry. He is finding his rhythm. And the offense, importantly enough, is finding their rhythm through him. When Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price are running the football the way they're running the football, guess what that does? Opens up play action for C.J. Carr. Clearer picture downfield. You can't be tricky in trying to stop the run game and also be tricky on the back end of the pass game. You can't do both. You can't do both. So the way they're elevating C.J. Carr, the way C.J. Carr, I know the picks are a little bit of a black eye on the resume against Pitt, but to me, the way he's operating this offense, I think that he is exactly where you would want him to be in the month of November, gearing up for a college football playoff run. This is a different team. This is a different defensive coordinator. There's different personnel on this roster, different quarterback. But it feels to me so similar to Notre Dame making the college football playoff last year after they were the story of September, losing to NIU, and can they make the playoff, this, that, and the other. Then it became evident they would make the playoff. This feels like the same Notre Dame stride that they hit heading into the playoff, and they gave probs to everyone the rest of the way. And here's the thing. It may not make sense. They may not have all the matchups that first round. They may not be picked to win or have this massive spread favoring them, but you get Marcus Freeman into the college football playoff, good things happen. He knows the route. He obviously knows how to get his team ready to play November and December football. This team, too, to me, as much as they have those same traits, have more dimensions offensively to apply some pressure to you and make you answer scores. Last year, it was like, hey, Riley Leonard's great on the ground. Defense is ridiculous, but like outside of that, the path to winning for Notre Dame is pretty narrow. And to their credit, they walked that narrow path, but I think the multi-dimensional ability you have offensively with the way that Carr is coming along, Malachi Fields looking like a freaking baller on the perimeter for them, Jeremiah Love and what he is, like there's so much there for Notre Dame to where I think they can now play different styles of games, which is incredibly important as you move into a 4-game run to try to finish your season the way you want to finish it. But again, if you want to drop Notre Dame out of these top 10, the burden of proof is on you, College Football Playoff Committee, to get that done. And right now, that conversation is going to be incredibly difficult to have any real value to it here going forward. All right, so you can pencil in those teams to the College Football Playoff, man. Notre Dame, pencil them in. Alabama, pencil them in. OU, same deal. You can pencil them in. Oregon also pencil them in to go along with your Sharpie teams. But I can't wait for these rankings tonight, man. We'll learn a lot about how the committee views Notre Dame and all that, but it should be a lot of fun. Now, one team that was not on that pencil-in side of things is Michigan. But don't get it twisted. Michigan, if they beat Ohio State, I don't know what world you leave them out of the college football playoff. Just have no idea how it's going to happen. Now, this is dark, but we got one more week before we have the regular season finale. It's dark for us as college football fans because it's like, man, the greatest regular season in sports is over. We got to wait a full, give or take, I think it's less than a year, but you got to wait more or less a year for us to get this thing back. However, look on the bright side, an awesome slate of games, one of which being Michigan and Ohio State. Now, with the stakes around this game for Michigan and for Ohio State, the stakes of finding a way to freaking end the streak of how many you've lost in a row against the Wolverines, this is going to be a big game for both teams, obviously. But this week, Michigan plays Maryland, at Maryland, right? At College Park, don't sleep. And Ohio State, they host Rutgers. So I think it's not a stretch to say we'd all be surprised if either one of these teams dropped their game this week. So with that being the context, what do you want to see from these teams checklist-wise going into the game that's going to define Michigan's playoff hopes and define Ohio State's emotional well-being for the next year or so? We'll break it down right now. Before we do that, make sure you're subscribed. College football, nothing but college football year-round. We appreciate you being college football sickos and tracking this thing year-round. If that's you being a sicko, make sure you're subscribed right here. Appreciate y'all in advance for that. So let's start with Michigan. Against Maryland, I want to see the second draft of the Northwestern game for Bryce Underwood. Because I was watching that game at home and I'm like, dude, he looks awesome. Cato's theory about Michigan maybe having a little bit of pause to the offense, maybe they're ramping things up now going into Ohio State. The ball is jumping out of his hands. Andrew Marsh is a freaking weapon. Donovan McCulley looks good. Like, he was spinning it. He still finished with 280 yards on the day for Bryce Underwood. He still finished with a drive that sets you up for a game-winning field goal. However, had the 2 picks, had the weird mesh point that ended up in a fumble, like essentially 3 turnovers you pin on Bryce Underwood. I want to see Bryce Underwood do all the good things he did against Northwestern, but cut out the bad things, correct the mistakes, if you will, that you have in a rough draft, and put it together in a game against before you go into Ohio State. Because here's the deal, man. It's going to take something through the air to beat Ohio State this year. All right? Like, I know last year was a grit your teeth, will yourself to a win over Ohio State kind of spot for Michigan, just be tougher. That's all well and good. You probably still need some of that to beat Ohio State. But I don't think you're winning the game throwing for less than 100 yards. All right? I don't think you're winning the game turning the football over twice at the quarterback position. So Bryce Underwood, a little dress rehearsal, looking good, pushing the football downfield. I want to see that from him in this spot to make me feel better from a Michigan fan about our chances to make the playoff and ultimately beat Ohio State yet again for our regular season finale. Now, here's the other thing I want to see. I want to see Wink Martindale, the DC for Michigan, kind of stack the study guide a bit for Julian Sayin. Like, I want to see some exotic looks from the Michigan defense that we haven't seen just yet this year. Moving safeties around, different personnel groupings. Like, I want to throw the freaking kitchen sink at Maryland because, again, who's on the other side of the field for us when we play Ohio State next week? A first-year starting quarterback in Julian Sayin. So Julian Sayin now, as good as he's been, Michigan's a different beast. It is. Wink Martindale has coached the NFL for a long time. There's a reason why. He's one of the best in the game when it comes to designing defenses. I would be really excited to see a couple of new things from Michigan because if you're Julian Sayin now, you got to get ready for all that. You got to honor all the exotic looks Michigan gives you the span of a week, in addition to everything else they've done this year, in addition to the emotional juice around that game, in addition to the road atmosphere. Like, there's a lot there to where if I could put one more thing on Julian Sayin's plate and slow him down a little bit and make him look a little bit more mortal with how he processes our defense, advantage us if I'm Michigan. All right, so stacking the study guide, being a little bit more ridiculous. Even if you don't run some of that stuff against Ohio State, make them spend time preparing for it. Very excited to see what Wink Martindale rolls out there, but I think that's something to watch for in the game against Maryland, something I want to see if I were a Michigan fan. Now, on the Ohio State side of things, I'd love to see a big day from the running back room against Rutgers. Rutgers, just to put it simply, they've been bad against the run. They've been bad on the defensive side of the football in general this year, which tough deal for the folks in Piscataway, New Jersey, but it's kind of how it's broken this year. The running back position, in my own experience, is such a rhythm shooter kind of position. Like, you ever watch Steph Curry on any given night for the Warriors have that first three-pointer go down, and then he walks up the next possession, and just pulls it from the logo, or he pulls it from wherever, and you're like, oh, man, Steph's feeling it tonight. That basket's looking big for Steph Curry tonight. Same kind of approach in a weird way if you're a running back. When you get in rhythm or you have a big game and you're kind of trusting what you're seeing, your eyes, you feel like you're on your P's and Q's, that changes the entire complexion of how you play the position. And going into this game against Michigan, where they've been phenomenal against the run over the course of your series against them, and you're going to have to be the tougher team, I'd love to see Bo Jackson go for 100 against Rutgers. I'd love to see C.J. Donaldson get rolling, James Peoples get like something on the ground for Ohio State to where we're walking into that Michigan game with a little bit extra juice behind us in that running back room. Because Julian Sayin, as good as he is, I don't want to send him out there and have him be the only way we can beat Michigan. Now, I'd be surprised, quite frankly, if that was the approach for Ohio State, but I think that having some rhythm in that running back room to help your first-year starting quarterback in the biggest game of your season to this point, I want to see some momentum leading into that game to give me some confidence about that, and to quite frankly give your running back room some confidence, all right? Now, last thing I want to see, if I'm Ohio State, I need a pass catcher not named Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate to go for a big day against Rutgers. One, I want Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, respectively, to be as healthy as possible. That's something we've monitored the last couple of weeks. I don't need them to do numbers against Rutgers to feel good about them against Michigan. Second part of this, though, I want Julian saying a little bit of chemistry going with the boys, all right? A little bit of extra, I trust you, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare, I know where you're going to be. That's already there, but to really lean on those guys to be like number one targets in a spot against Rutgers, I think having that in the cerebral cortex of those receivers and Julian saying could go a long way in just having more options against Michigan. Also put it this way, like I want Michigan, the third point of this, I want them to worry about as many different playmakers as possible. Because like Michigan, you know Jeremiah Smith's a dog. You know Carnell Tate's ridiculous. But I have to worry about Brandon Ennis because he went for $150 against Rutgers. Or Max Clare catches 3 touchdowns against Rutgers. I got to give him more attention in the red zone. That's a lot on the to-do list of a defense, man. That's a lot to worry about with a quarterback that you know is going to deliver the mail if you're not on your P's and Q's on the defensive side. So that's something to watch for, man. Can somebody else outside of those two guys pop on film in a different way the week before Michigan and make Michigan have to adjust a little bit and say, well, you know what? We got to give Jeremiah Smith his attention, but what about Ennis? What about Clare? We can go down the line here and talk about a number of different receivers, but that's kind of the approach I'd like to have Michigan giving us if we're Ohio State on the offensive side of the football. So to recap it here, Michigan giving the Bryce Underwood Northwestern game without the mistakes and have something going against this Maryland team where you make them a little bit extra nervous watching tape if you're Ohio State, having to account for some extra things. For Ohio State, get the running back room in rhythm. Likely it's Bo Jackson, but I'll take any running back in rhythm when it comes to the game against Michigan. And then someone not named Carnell Tate or Jeremiah Smith having a big day to end that same thing we talked about with the Michigan defense with having to make Ohio State prep extra for that. Make the Michigan defense have to prep extra for you, Ohio State, with how they align to your different playmakers. So I can't wait for it. I'm so glad that if Michigan wins, this will have some massive stakes for one side of this thing. It's rivalry football. It's college football. It's Michigan. It's Ohio State. Like, the stakes are going to be huge anytime those teams play. And we are all the way here for on this side of things. I'll say it out loud. We're probably college football purists, okay? I don't think that's irresponsible or inappropriate to say. And Michigan, Ohio State, meaning as much as humanly possible, is always a good thing for this sport. So we appreciate y'all making the show what it is, man. Again, our reaction to tonight's rankings will be yours to have and to hold shortly after those rankings are out. Andy and Ari will be live on this channel as well, reacting to those rankings. So you get double the coverage, double the fun on this channel, and we'll have a good time, man. We're going to make sure we make this last 2 weeks of the greatest regular season in sports count. We're going to savor it. We're going to enjoy it. And we know you will too. So we appreciate y'all being subscribed and being a part of this. For Cato on the ones and the twos, and for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.